I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. If I get drunk, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who gets drunk next to you. And if I heaver, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who's heavering to you.
All right, so Maddie, do you know what it means to haver? No, I had to look it up. It does not mean to throw up, as some people suspect. No, it means to babble. Okay, it means to babble. Anyway, that's what you call it when you babble in Scottish, I guess. Hey, that's a great tune. Heard it here, played in the river the other night, and I would walk. There are things that I would walk 500 miles for, or 1,000 miles, or 3,000 miles. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is climate change. And Channing Dutton will join us later as we talk about we're going to discuss a clever video that deals with the renaming of hurricanes for those who are responsible for the increased velocity and violence of our hurricanes. We are also going to talk a little bit more about, there's always some new angle on this Toledo juvenile home situation, and on the investigation into the firing of Larry Headland, the state trooper who called the governor's speeding vehicle to task back in April. That's still a live round. Speaking of live rounds, Ken Sorensen has all sorts of a world of hurt coming his way as more and more Republican senators in Iowa are distancing themselves from him and calling for his resignation. We'll talk about that today as well. We're going to talk about the International Baccalaureate Program. I'm very excited to have a guest on the program today to talk about that. And again, we're going to also, as we tie into the climate change conversation with Channing, we'll talk about the horrible wildfire near Yosemite National Park in California. But first, I want to welcome Edgar Rosa to the show. Edgar is a guy I've known for a long time.
How's it going, Ed?
Good. I've known you since you were tiny.
Hello?
Yeah, are you with us? I can hear you just fine. Some reason we're having trouble.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Yeah, welcome to the program, Edgar. And I've known you a while. You are you're finishing your doctoral work.
My master's.
Master's. Sorry, didn't mean to advance you too far ahead. And
Dr. Rose is a little down the line.
Well, and more debt as well. So
more.
Sorry to add more debt to your credentials than need be. But you're working on an interesting project for that degree. It is called Son of a Barman.
Yep.
And it is an Irish-themed movie. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. I am in my second year at the American Film Institute Conservatory in Los Angeles, California, and I am producing a half-hour thesis film that combines 6 disciplines at the school, teaming together to create one project. We have a budget cap of about $65,000, so it is in the medium range of short films, but it basically offers students a chance to all collaborate together and work towards a common goal.
Okay.
The project specifically follows a young 30-something who is estranged from his family, specifically his father in Ireland, who owns a bar. And when he returns home to bury his father, over the course of the film, he reconnects with the community and with his father, who he previously thought was not such a good person, and realizes that he wasn't as bad as he thought.
And I've never thought of you as having Irish connections, but where did the link come from? How did you?
Well, a couple months ago, my director Bennett Lassiter approached me about a story he had read in a newspaper that talked a lot about how in Ireland and in England the pub culture is declining because a lot of the 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds are leaving the country and not coming back. And so,
well, there's nothing new to that. I mean, that's going on for a couple hundred years.
Right, but in the article specifically, the rate of that of leaving was much higher in the past few years. And so
it has accelerated again since the collapse of the Irish economy back in November of 2010. Yeah,
exactly.
It's gotten worse again.
And so he was pretty passionate. He has Irish roots, along with our production designer, have Irish roots. And so he wanted to tell a story about how that pub culture can apply to the youth of today, and how reconnecting and utilizing those things that are special about your home life can transition into your professional life.
Okay, so it's what would you say the general thrust of the film? What are the key messages you want to get across in this production?
The general messages that we want to get across in this production is, a lighthearted family approach to reconnecting with your roots. It was actually funny. The Tourism Ireland, the head of the tourism in the country, actually is doing a marketing scheme this year that focuses on, quote unquote, the year of the gathering, which focuses on having young members of society return home and appreciate the family and appreciate the culture. So that's what we want to provide through this movie.
Okay, yeah. And again, a big part of the problem is the economy took a major hit. It is interesting to me that the economies in the European Union that took the biggest hits were all on the Mediterranean, except for Ireland. For what that's worth, maybe they tend to be the most laid-back countries. I don't know. But yeah, then there was a period where it was really going gangbusters in Ireland. So yeah, the pub culture is something. I mean, I remember I wrote a little bit about it in an update I put out just last week. It is as central to the life and the pulse of Ireland as is the Catholic Church.
Exactly.
And it's very possible that attendance at Catholic churches is also on the decline, perhaps for different reasons. But
yeah, and that's one of the things that Bennett wanted to portray in this, is that in America, bars and pubs have a very different external view from society than how it is viewed in Ireland. And in Ireland, the pub culture is more of a community, more of essential to keeping in touch with the rest of the town, the rest of the city, whereas a lot of the culture here is let's get drunk, let's get
right.
Let's have a good time.
Yeah, and again, I noticed in Ireland during my many visits that people tend not to drink at home. They tend to go out and go to the pub, and that's where the drinking happens and the socializing. It's not the. And I did know there was a guy up the road from our farm in Ireland who would drink all by himself, but he was an alcoholic and he was often drunk for a month at a time. I don't know how he survived, but yeah, there is a pub culture, and I think the word culture in that context is very important because there is a lot of culture transmitted, both verbally, musically, economically. I mean, I remember going to markets in Ireland, farm markets, where cattle were bought and sold. And you would see the exchanges between the farmers. And I would say, well, hey, nothing got sold. And I was told to follow along, come to the pub and see what would happen next. And it was at the pubs often where the economic exchange, where that element of culture
exactly
reached its conclusion, where the actual buying and selling of cattle occurred.
Right. Well, and my team was lucky enough to take a research trip to Ireland over the summer, and so they got to see firsthand what this culture was like, and we are in the process now of transitioning all of that new information into the most current draft of the story.
Okay. And again, $65,000 is no small budget.
Correct.
And you are in the process of helping to raise that through a fundraiser coming up this week.
Yeah, John Beard has been very gracious in allowing us to use the former governor's mansion at 2900 Grand Avenue, just down the street, for this fundraiser. And on Friday from 5 to 7, I will be presenting the materials that we've gathered so far, including research, pictures, and video from the trip, and then pitching my project.
Great. Well, and people are welcome to come to that?
Yes, absolutely.
Is there a suggested donation, or is it whatever people can feel they can afford to contribute?
Exactly. There is no suggested donation. Anything that can be offered for the production is appreciated. I mean, obviously, we need all of the help we can get because this is a huge undertaking.
Right.
But anything from donated services to obviously cash, anything that you can offer is appreciated.
Great. Well, Edgar, good luck with that.
Thank you.
I hope to be able to make that event myself. And again, I wish you the best of luck with the film.
Great.
As they say in Ireland, all the best.
It's nice talking to you, Ed.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Folks, before we start our conversation about climate change, about the destruction of vast tracts of forest land near Yosemite National Park, and share also an interesting reflection from former Des Moines Register editorial writer Bill Leonard on the broader subject of the wildfire problem in the West. We got a little bit of politics to talk about here. Poor Kent Sorensen is in a world of hurt. This is the state senator who won pretty overwhelmingly, beating he was a state House member, ran against Stacey Apple for the state Senate seat, beat her badly, real handily, and now is in such a deep trouble over his receiving payment for working for the Ron Paul campaign that even his own colleagues are calling on him to resign. Governor Branstad is actually moderating his comments compared to what some of the others are saying. On Monday, he again, of course, emphasized Iowa's excellent caucus system. He wants to do everything he can to preserve that, obviously. And yet he didn't quite call for the resignation of Senator Sorensen in this pay-to-play investigation. But he didn't say. He kind of is saying, let's let the process work. And again, what his colleagues are saying, what Sorensen's colleagues are, Brad Zahn, state senator from Urbandale, basically called for his resignation this weekend on a WHO TV interview. That might have been with David Price, I'm not sure. But again, Zahn calling for his resignation. I wrote to Zahn this morning and asked him, if he would like to talk further about that. He says basically he said what he's got to say on that, doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Hard to blame him. But he called Sorensen, quote, a major distraction to the Senate Republicans. I certainly think he should resign. Okay, that's pretty strong language. On the other side of the rotunda in the Iowa House, one of the Republican, the longtime Republican champions of conservative causes in that chamber, Clell Boudler, called Sorensen, quote, and this is unusually strong, quote, a cancer within our party. Wow. And then he goes on to say, you cut it out if you have a cancer in there. That's really strong language. Wow. And it gets worse. Again, Sorensen's in the Senate. You would think, well, maybe in the Senate he's going to have a little bit more friendship, a little more love from his colleagues. Well, no, here's Mark Chelgren of Ottumwa and Jack Whitfer from Ankeny, and also Iowa Secretary of State Matt Schultz, who have all also said that it would be appropriate for Sorensen to resign if the accusations against him are true. And so they haven't. That's not as strong as what Boudler or Brad Zahn is saying, but still, it's pretty strong. This guy is in a world of hurt. And now also on the enemy list from Sorensen's point of view is the New York Times, who on Sunday cited his ethics complaint as one of several concerns that could diminish the GOP caucus's influence. And they say specifically, quote, even the whiff of such pay-to-play behavior, party insiders worry, gives those inclined to avoid Iowa an excuse to do so. So, yeah, this is beyond Sorensen. And again, I have mixed feelings about, should a state lawmaker who technically is a part-time lawmaker, this is the citizens legislature. They work January through May. And then after that, if they're any good, they continue to work for you and provide constituent service. But they also often have other jobs. And I did for part of my time as a lawmaker and part of my time as I didn't. I never took paid employment with a campaign as a lawmaker. I did work in a paid capacity with John Edwards' campaign after I was done serving. But I don't necessarily have trouble with that. If providing everything is above the board, providing the compensation is reasonable. So the question is, was Sorensen's compensation reasonable and above the board? It does look kind of questionable on some levels. The fact that it's going to a deeper investigation, it does not bode well for him. I will not be surprised at all if Ken Sorensen is packing up his bags sometime in the near future and that Governor Branstad is calling for a special election in that district. Okay, let's switch gears. Climate change. I believe we might have Channing Dutton on the phone with us. Hello, Channing.
Ed, how are you?
I'm great. Yourself?
I'm doing very well.
Well, we got to share this clip with our audience. But first, if you would, tell us how did you discover this? What's your take on it?
Well, it's funny, Ed. I've got a son who lives in Baltimore, and he said, "Hey, did you see the new proposal about naming hurricanes?" And so, here's a 25, 26-year-old kind of disinterested, a young man living out on the East Coast, and even he has seen this new push to come up with a different philosophy on naming the hurricanes that we see going around the coast. So I looked for it, found a link, and when I went to my email account to share it with you and others, I saw that many of the climate groups were already discussing this as one awesome idea.
Okay, let's take a look at this awesome idea. And for those of you in our listening audience only, I'll provide some commentary.
Andrew. Sandy. Ivan.
Right now, we're just seeing
Katrina.
individuals with these names.
Since 1954, the World Meteorological Organization has been naming hurricanes and tropical storms. But what did these people do to deserve having their names attached to this?
Go away, Katrina. We all hate you, Sandy.
As climate change continues to create more frequent and devastating storms, we propose a new naming system. One that names extreme storms after policymakers who deny climate change. We propose something like this.
Senator Marco Rubio is expected to pound the eastern seaboard sometime early tonight. Windows are being boarded up and grocery stores are virtually empty as Marco Rubio threatens everything in his path.
Now, Michelle Bachmann is on the way, folks, and specifically the eye of Michelle Bachmann will be hitting Florida in a few hours.
Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann is incredibly dangerous. If you value your life, please seek shelter from Michelle Bachmann.
Senator David Vitter is turning out to be one of the hugest and costliest disasters in American history.
David Vitter is literally lifting boats out of the water and tossing them onto the land.
In New Orleans, the levees that were built to stop Hurricane Colin Peterson have been obliterated. I'm here at the North Pier where Speaker John Boehner is really doing a number on this coastline. John Boehner is just destroying this town.
Local animal shelters are under pressure as thousands of animals have been displaced or killed by Governor Rick Perry.
We can't even take care of the animals that we've rescued, and so some of them are going to have to be put down, all because of Rick Perry.
We've been here for 2 days because of Congressman Paul Ryan. I have friends still out there. It's scary because I have no idea what Paul Ryan could be doing to them right now.
Senator James Inhofe has turned out to be a worst-case scenario come true. And now an entire nation is wondering how they'll ever recover from the disaster that is James Inhofe.
Oh, gosh, Channing.
If you agree that it's time for a naming system that names extreme storms caused by climate change after policymakers who deny climate change, sign the petition at climatenamechange.org before John Boehner blows your entire city away.
ClimateNameChange.org. Folks, it comes across pretty well, just the audio, again, for those of us in our listening-only audience. But it's worth going to ClimateNameChange.org and viewing the video itself if you didn't get a chance to see it just now. But
okay. Ed, let me add, they are doing a petition drive.
That's right.
They're putting together a request that we start naming these storms for the people who seem to be so in love with these storms. And it's such a tremendous idea that I immediately thought of you. And I hope, Ed, that you're not the only local media person who takes up the challenge that I sent out, and that is, this is so entertaining and so spot on. I mean, this is what it's all about. And this tide's turning. Last night on the NBC Nightly News, Ed, I saw a anti-big oil commercial. This one was promoting the interests of ethanol, but it was clearly talking about big oil does not want you educated.
Right.
Big oil does not want you thinking the right way. So maybe these are exciting times.
And I love a little humor with my serious issues, even an issue as critical as climate change. But there are people who are going to see that and take offense. Like they'll think it's overstating the case. Maybe they'll say that these politicians have done other things that are commendable, and yet here we're kind of painting them with one brush, the climate brush, and making them villains. How do you talk to people who think that maybe this goes too far and might find it offensive?
Ed, with any crisis, and we're clearly in this crisis, and we're at a tipping point. Those people who want to stand with the fossil fuel industry need to identify that, and those people who believe that there's a better way for us to go, they need to stand up and be counted too. And so if we're concerned about the eye of Michelle Bachmann striking Miami, I think that this is exactly the way it should. The national dialogue should be discussed.
I don't know if there's been any pushback yet. I mean, again, this is a fairly recent production, but I'll be interested in seeing if there is any kind of a pushback.
Well, there's going to be complaining and whining, but as you say, this is good-spirited and it's fun, but it's also, many truths are said in jest. And the truth here is that, when these people espouse these policies that don't address the devastation, they should have these storms named for them.
No, and some of them might also say, well, this has been last year's hurricane season wasn't that bad. This year's not shaping up to be too bad yet. So you're going to have, and the tornado traffic this year was pretty minimal. So you're going to have people saying that, well, climate change, it's a come and go thing. It's 1 year one thing, 1 year the next. They're going to say this is just normal behavior.
In the era of climate change, Ed, what we're going to see is extremes. And
right.
So when people say, well, our tornado numbers are down, of course, I would say, well, why don't you go sit on Highway 5 down by Moore, Oklahoma, and have a look at what the two tornadoes 11 days apart did to that community. They were massive and unprecedented in size. So the numbers are clearly down in terms of the frequencies of the storm. The impact from a supercharged atmosphere with more moisture and more energy is clearly greater. And we can't lose track of the fact that, when people say, well, things are a little bit different, well, let's talk about this on October 22, which is the anniversary of Hurricane Sandy.
Oh, yeah. Well, and let's look out west. I mean, really, you don't have to travel far to find a climate-related disaster. And as we heard firefighters say on the front lines of a fire that was being fought last month in the Black Forest of Colorado, you can't find a firefighter on the front lines who is a climate denier. And now we have this fire at Yosemite National Park. It's huge. Well, there's a great typo in today's USA Today story, which says 45,000 structures, but really it's 4,500 structures are being threatened. 234 square miles is being covered by this fire. And there are 3,670 firefighters from across the country coming to help fight this blaze, this one blaze. I mean, I guess you could argue, if that you could say that climate change is good for job creation. We have 3,500 firefighters now who are employed because of this fire. That would be a very cynical outlook. But again, it's a horrible situation. It's unprecedented, and it's just another example of maybe we should start naming these fires after congressmen and senators from Western states who continue to deny climate change. I mean.
You took the words exactly right out of my mouth, Ed, and that is, you might recall the last time I was on your show, we were talking about the Great Climate March, and then we were concerned about the death of the 19 firefighters in Arizona.
Yarnell.
But we were talking about, well, what will the news story be in the future? Well, today is the future from that interview,
sure.
and the story today is Yosemite. Let me give you one factoid, Ed, that struck me, and that is, they've already shut down the power lines that traditionally flow the energy into San Francisco.
That's right.
And so San Francisco now is out in the open market bidding, and that means spending more money.
Spending more, yep.
At the same time that the federal government is essentially out of funds to fight these wildfires.
Because of budget cuts, yes.
Yeah, their water supply is threatened, and we continue to fiddle while Rome burns.
Right.
And so these fiddlers need to be clearly called out, they need to be identified, and they need to answer. And they're going to be answering for the rest of their professional careers.
Well, then you're going to have people like this, though, like Jack Bangert, who writes in today's Des Moines Register, it's laughable to call CO2 a pollutant. He criticizes the letter writer who criticized Steve King, saying there is a blanket of greenhouse gases, and he calls that a term invented by the UN, which means it was a bad term, I guess. There is a blanket of greenhouse gases made up primarily of man-made carbon dioxide that surrounds our planet and prevents heat from the sun escaping back into the atmosphere. He goes on to say, the writer says this is causing global warming, and thus the activities of man are causing our planet to heat up. Now, here's the bizarre part. He says, if this layer of gases prevents heat from escaping, why does it not prevent the sun's heat from reaching Earth? Are we supposed to believe it is like a one-way mirror that works only in one direction? Global warmists get a big charge talking about, quote, carbon pollution, a phrase our president used in one of his speeches. The truth is there are two gases in our atmosphere that make life on this planet possible. One is oxygen, the other is carbon dioxide. Elimination of either and this planet becomes just another lifeless rock orbiting our sun. So he's basically saying that carbon dioxide is good stuff, bring it on, let's have some more.
Well, and from an elementary scientific standpoint, he's not wrong. Carbon dioxide is a part of the natural order of the atmosphere.
Sure.
The problem is, in the last 150 years, and we just need to look at the man hockey stick, which is widely accepted as the bellwether standard for measuring what's happened during the era of burning of fossil fuels. We have supercharged the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. And whether the writer understands it or not, there is an absorption or an absorbing ability of the CO2 to both allow the energy from the sun into the planet, but then to keep it, to reflect it back. And that's the greenhouse effect. The more CO2, the more methane, the more of these types of compounds that we inject into our atmosphere, the bigger the problem is going to be. And so with all of these denier or at least misinformation approaches, there's a kernel of truth there. But the problem is they are simply taking the first kernel of truth and going, well, we've got to have CO2. Oh, I can agree with that. We've got too much CO2, and it is going to change our planet for centuries to come.
Yeah. And it's going to change even if we start behaving. So we need to find ways of accommodating Earth's wrath, but also we need to stop causing the problem. So, yeah, I mean, and the folks out west are saying that we've only begun to see what the impact of fires are going to be. I mean, Bill Leonard has a great piece in today's paper as well about this. Bill Leonard, a former editorial writer, talks about the pine bark beetles, which used to be, I mean, they've been there forever, but they've been managed by a system that accommodated them. But now, with all the drier conditions, the weakening of trees, the prolonging of drought, these pests have become just rampant, and they're also creating the raw tinder, the raw fuel for fires, and we're hearing that the fires. I mean, yeah, Yarnell was horrible, and now we have Yosemite. It's worse, and the problem is this is just going to get worse, and we're going to see more and more worse and worse fires, and yeah.
And Ed, do you remember who has been telling us for years that we are going to see these exploding and immense wildfires? The answer is the computer models.
Exactly.
And when
scientists,
right, when everyone wants to bash the scientists and the computer models, what they never come back to is, oh, you know what? This is what the models have been talking about. This is what we've been told, and we've been told this repeatedly. And now we're seeing it, so we should name the fires for the Western deniers.
Yeah. Channing, thanks again for putting us in touch with that video, and thanks, folks, for joining this conversation. Channing, I appreciate your constant vigilance and advocacy on behalf of the climate change issue.
My pleasure.
All
nice
right.
talking to you, Ed.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Folks, when we come back, we're going to talk about the International Baccalaureate Program. This is a pretty interesting innovation in education. We'll be talking with Simone Ulecno. And again, stick around. It'll be just a couple minutes. I also want to thank Gateway Market and Cafe for sponsoring this segment of our program. Gateway is at 20th and Woodland in the Sherman Hill neighborhood. I also want to thank the Sierra Club, Iowa, Physicians for Social Responsibility, and the Great March for Climate Action. And don't forget to support some of the restaurant clients that make the show possible as well, like Hawk Restaurant in the East Village and Tally's Restaurant in Beaverdale. And again, the Proclaimers. Do they rock or what?
Real Estate Concept Studios. This is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I am administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going, though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed rider, it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Yeah, I've never been a punk music fan. Gosh, I like this tune.
Well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's lonely without you. And when I'm dreaming,
Kind of like steampunk, maybe a little bit, Manny? I don't know. No, not at all. Okay. Hey, welcome back to the Fallon Forum, folks. And again, if you're listening on KHOI 89.1 out of Ames or KPVL 89.1 out of Northeast Iowa, this is a rebroadcast. This show happens live every day, Monday through Friday, 12 noon to 1 o'clock, 12 to 1 on the Fallon Forum website. It's online at fallonforum.com. And again, rebroadcast on Wednesdays in those two locations. This is the segment of our program which we call A New Beat on Learning, where we take a look at the innovative stuff happening in the realm of education. We had a conversation last week with Andrew Rasmussen about core curriculum. We've been trying to generate some conversation on the International Baccalaureate program, and I'm delighted on the show today to have with us Simone Alekno.
Pleasure to be here.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And again, before we talk about the program specifically, give us a little background on your own work and how long you've been working with the program.
Well, I actually grew up here in Des Moines and attended the Des Moines Public Schools, and so the improvement of our district and this program as part of our district is really important to me personally. This is my second year as the Des Moines Public Schools International Baccalaureate, and I'm also the World Languages Coordinator.
So you grew up here, went to school where?
I went to Roosevelt.
And then
graduated in '94 and went to the University of Iowa. Ended up teaching in Chicago Public Schools and came back here 3 years ago.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Big change from Chicago.
Yes.
Mostly good?
It's a very good change. Yeah, very positive change.
I mean, we're smaller, we're friendlier, and we have as much culture and culinary grandeur as they do, correct?
Absolutely.
All right, there we go.
It's more accessible and more resources here for our kids.
Well, yeah, that's good to know.
It
Now,
is.
the International Baccalaureate program is an official program of the Des Moines Public School system.
Well, the International Baccalaureate Organization is an international nonprofit organization, and our schools, 7 of them have done this successfully. 3 are working on it.
7 within the Des Moines district.
Yes,
Okay.
within the Des Moines district for a total of 10. Seek authorization is kind of an accreditation process through the International Baccalaureate Organization. So those schools actually make the choice to actually choose a third layer of accountability on top of state accountability, district accountability, and of course there's some federal as well.
So to the real crux of it, what exactly is the International Baccalaureate program?
Well, it's International Baccalaureate is difficult to encapsulate in a nutshell. It's like an onion where you start peeling back the layers and there's just more and more, so I'll do my best. But
Okay, peel away, and I'll try not to cry if the onion gets too strong.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And just stop me with questions at any time. But IB, or International Baccalaureate, was actually started in 1968 in Geneva, Switzerland. Its roots go farther back, though, to about 1948 when she's known as the pioneer of international education, Marie-Thérèse Lorette, actually wrote a paper, and the paper was titled, Can We Use Education to Create Peace in the World? In the aftermath of the Second World War, where people had witnessed, horrible atrocities and genocide and just catastrophic loss all around, educators were asking themselves, is there a way to use education to, create a more peaceful and just world? And so she wrote her paper, and it took a couple decades for teachers to really start embracing it in Europe. Eventually they did, and then they officially started in 1968 with the program.
So what's the the problem that's trying to be addressed is the frequency of international conflict and the the depth of atrocities that often occur in war, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And some see that maybe, but some might look at that and say, okay, that's a problem for governments to solve, for people involved in international affairs.
Right.
How do you take it from that level down to the educational level?
Well, IBO emphasizes 3 fundamental concepts: holistic education, which is education for the whole child. So addressing the emotional, academic, the intellectual, the social needs of the child. A second piece would be emphasizing communication. And IB really focuses on the need for students to learn a second language as part of their understanding of others in the world. And then finally, IB emphasizes intercultural awareness and international mindedness. So really starting to understand your world as early as 5 years old, outside of your local community.
Yeah. Now, it sounds like the type of approach to education that some on the right wing of the political spectrum would have conniptions over. It reeks of multiculturalism, and you know how some lawmakers on the Republican side of the aisle have just railed against multiculturalism. I mean, when I was up there were amendments offered on a regular basis to remove any talk about multiculturalism from the curriculum. And this reeks of multiculturalism.
Well, multiculturalism is definitely one aspect of IB, but I would say it goes much further than that. IB doesn't have an agenda of any kind. It's really about educating students so that they can make their own informed decisions, and to also give them the tools and empower them to do their own research and their own investigations.
And now the pushback against multiculturalism has faded somewhat. It's not gone, but it's faded a bit. But back in its heyday, when it was really front and center in a lot of the educational debates we had here in Iowa and across the country, was there a major pushback against the IB program?
There has actually been a pushback, not really in Iowa so much, but in other states, particularly some western states. We've had a little bit of pushback in Des Moines here, but once I explained the program to the parents that had some objections or raised some objections, kind of homeschooling, rather conservative parents, they actually grew to really like the program because of its emphasis on character building.
I'm glad to hear that. I mean, but you got people who are, just the requirement to learn a second language, that's basically un-American. Oh. And it reminds me of one of my favorite jokes. What do you call somebody who speaks 2 languages?
What?
Bilingual.
Yeah.
How about 3 languages?
Try.
Excellent. What do you call somebody who speaks 1 language? An American. An American.
Oh,
and that unfortunately is an embarrassing but somewhat accurate assessment of our national finesse with foreign languages.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we definitely need to emphasize foreign language development to a much greater extent in the United States. I think we do a pretty good job with it, though, here in Des Moines Public Schools. Yeah. We've been expanding our offerings
there was a Chinese program
school
as well.
We still have that. That's actually part of our IB schools.
Okay.
And we offer Spanish, Arabic.
Arabic, good choice.
Yeah.
That's a language the folks who can speak Arabic, I think, are going to have many more opportunities in employment. There's so many more jobs that I think that are going to be coming available if you can speak Arabic or Chinese for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
My daughter has good work in part because she speaks Spanish really well.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, the second largest, spoken language in the United States is Spanish, so that's a really good choice.
Yeah.
And Arabic has actually been declared by the federal government to be a critical language.
Good. It's about time.
Yeah.
So, what do students do in order to enroll in the program here in the Des Moines district?
They don't have to do anything, especially. It's a program of choice here in the district.
List?
Well, there can sometimes, I'll be honest with you, a waiting list for various IB schools. We have 7 that are authorized, 3 that are candidate schools. And most of our population...
That means 7 schools that currently offer the program, 3 others that are...
7 that are officially accredited, and 3 that are seeking the accreditation, which we actually call authorization.
And these are middle, high school, or elementary as well?
Yeah, we have 4 elementary schools, and then we have 4 middle schools, 1 high school, and then Central Academy offers our diploma program. That program does have some prerequisites to get into
And
it.
how many students altogether in the program then?
Almost 6,000.
6,000?
Or
Really?
about a fifth of our students.
And those are all students and their parents who've made that choice.
Have made that choice or live in the neighborhood vicinity of the school and have agreed that this is a good option for their students.
So all the students at that particular school
Come from the neighborhood.
But they're all enrolled in the IB program. That's the entire school is enrolled.
The entire school is enrolled.
Okay.
In fact, we make special effort to include special education students, English language learners. It's really about inclusiveness.
And what if a parent in the neighborhood in that school's zone does not like the program? They have to open enroll elsewhere?
They would have to open enroll elsewhere. Yes.
Is that an easy thing for them to do?
It is an easy thing to do. We make that a very easy thing because we emphasize choice in the district. So far, I can't think of a single time that has happened, though, because of the rigor and also the reputation of International Baccalaureate.
So there have not been any parents with kids in one of those 7 schools that have asked to be open enrolled?
No, I haven't encountered a single case.
Really? That's amazing.
One mother was seriously considering it because she thought that IB was kind of connected to the United Nations, which it is not. And
which
she
is
had
an evil
some,
entity.
She has some qualms against that. But after speaking with her, she decided it was actually a good option for her daughter.
Wow. And did you have that conversation?
Yes, it did.
Well, you're very diplomatic.
Well, I try.
So your next job after managing the IB program in the Des Moines School District will be an ambassador to some country where we need somebody with some diplomatic skills. I'm just speculating.
Okay, well, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what foreign languages do you speak yourself?
I know some Chinese and some German.
Nice combo.
Yeah, interesting combo.
Yeah, interesting combo. Yeah. Okay, so beyond again, part of the program focuses on holistic education.
Yes.
And that was the term you used.
Holistic education.
What does that mean, holistic education?
So addressing the needs of the whole child. So we don't just think about the child's academic and intellectual needs, but we also foster character traits and their emotional and social development through our IB learner profile traits, which emphasize things like being a caring person, being knowledgeable, being an inquirer, or somebody who digs into problems and investigates and tries to be a solver of
And how does that work in the classroom? How does that play out in an academic situation?
In an academic situation, it's kind of what we emphasize in our own behavior. We try to be examples to our students as teachers and leaders and school principals. And then it's also the behavior that we recognize and reward at the elementary level. At the middle school, we actually try to, and we try to do at the elementary level as well, we try to integrate those traits like inquiry into our curriculum and instruction so that students really live those traits and embody those. We want it to be a very deep implementation. It's not just about slapping, 10 character traits up on the wall and kind of, making it wall candy. It's really about getting the kids to embody those traits.
And so with, again, I presume that with these additional offerings, there are some things that kids might do in a more conventional academic setting that they don't get to do. Do they do less math, less science?
No.
What do they miss because they're doing the additional foreign language work or the additional holistic approach?
Very, very good question.
I specialize in good questions. Trust me. That's why they pay me the big bucks, right, Randy? Yeah.
I think that probably the most striking difference would be the emphasis on the second language at the elementary and middle school level, which I don't think that means that they miss out on anything else. It just means that it's a greater challenge for those principals and teachers to create schedules for students and be as, it's a lot more work on the part of the educators who decide to adopt International Baccalaureate.
But any teacher at that school, Hoover's one of these schools, correct?
Hoover is a candidate.
Candidate, okay. And are there any high schools right now that are?
No, it's just Hoover's our only candidate, and then Central Academy offers an authorized diploma program to any student in the district.
Teachers coming into that school have to know that this is going to require additional work on their part.
Yeah, absolutely.
And along with that additional work, we have the additional work that comes with the core curriculum. with No Child Left Behind.
Yes.
Are teachers okay with all that?
Yeah, they really are okay with it because we're very open and honest at the get-go, and we go through when a school becomes an international baccalaureate school, they go through a feasibility study period as well. And the teachers that come in are also made aware that we are legally obligated to teach the same standards and whatnot, but that there's this additional layer. I think that for most of them, the rewards from teaching at an IB school make up for that additional layer of accountability and greater expectations.
And why is Hoover considering it and not some of the other high schools in Des Moines?
Well, we just happen to have IB is really a decision on the part of the stakeholders of a school. So it usually starts with the parents, the administrators, the teachers, and the students. And IB expects that you gain the consensus of those stakeholders before moving ahead. So often I get asked, why don't you just make all the high schools in Des Moines IB schools? And the reason is...
Yeah, I was just about to ask that.
It's choice. It's choice.
Okay.
It would be completely productive and also would go against all of IB's principles to force anybody into it. So Hoover made the decision along with Meredith because of their connected campus to pursue this route. It was actually at the time a way for them to improve their school under No Child Left Behind.
So under what circumstances would a parent and a student say the IB program is not for me? I need to be in a more conventional setting. What would their thinking be? What would their needs be that might drive them away from the program?
In all honesty, I think it would just be misconceptions. The misconception that this is somehow tied to a left agenda or it's tied to the United Nations.
But in that case, why not make the whole school district an IB district?
Well, it's been suggested, and as the IB coordinator, I can't say that I'm opposed to that, but I am opposed to unilateral decision making on the part of the district. I really want people to come to consensus on their own and to want to do this because it is an additional layer.
Right. So there are enough parents, teachers, students, administrators within the district who prefer the more conventional approach.
Yeah, there are, and there have been some requests to try to go IB, but there has to be kind of a critical mass at a school before we really start to pursue it seriously.
Now, I know this is beyond your range, but are there other school districts in the state of Iowa that have an IB program?
Well, Des Moines was the first. Hubble was actually the first elementary, and we actually have more IB schools here than Washington, D.C., here in Des Moines. Recently...
And we have better restaurants, too.
Yep, definitely. And just everything's better.
Take that, DC.
Recently, Council Bluffs came on board with an elementary school, and Waterloo is trying to pursue 2 diploma programs, which is for 11th and 12th graders.
So when was the program established at Hubble Elementary in Des Moines?
It was established at Hubble about 8 years ago.
Okay, so we're well ahead of the curve here.
We are definitely well ahead of the curve.
Okay. But Council Bluffs, Waterloo are the other 2 places where we're seeing some movement.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Huh. So again, with 330 school districts in Iowa?
I think it's about that, around 300.
I know you lose a few every once in a while, but it's over 300 still.
Yeah.
But so why haven't some of the other districts pursued this program?
I'm thinking that it's probably lack of awareness, and then also there are some additional fees. The schools do pay an annual fee to IB.
Is that expensive? Or?
I actually don't think it is. I think it's one of the best bargains in education. If you break it down by per pupil expenditure, it's less than the cost of a textbook per student.
So
actually less than half per student.
Okay, so
it's about $18 per student per year. Yeah.
Well, that's like nothing.
Yeah, it really is. Our budget is about 0.001% of the overall district budget. So
that's shoveling your mom and dad's sidewalk maybe twice in a winter.
Well, again, yeah, exactly. But so there is a perception that it's a really expensive program, and I think that does come from the diploma program. At the diploma program level, students are required to pay for their battery of tests, just like you do with advanced placement. And so I think that misperception comes from there. But it's around $18 per student. And unlike a textbook, IB it starts when the bell rings in the morning and it ends when the bell rings in the afternoon, and it's for every single student and every single subject area.
So I mean,
pretty good deal.
So okay, I didn't quite follow you there. The school day is the same length.
The same length,
okay.
yeah, yep. but all day you're looking at curriculum and instruction through the IB framework,
So
and
the
the IB
entire
lens.
curriculum is through the lens of the International Baccalaureate.
Yeah, although
program.
the curriculum is provided by the district, teachers still follow the curriculum guides of the district and still follow the standards of the state. They have their own framework, their own lens, and own approach.
Now, are there places in the U.S. or in the world, for that matter, where an entire school district is run under this program?
Yes.
Such as?
Dade County in Florida.
Oh, okay.
I think that Dade County. That is in Florida. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting Dane and Dade mixed up. Okay, so that's Miami, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So the entire Miami school district?
Yes, they went fully. I'm trying to think of the country that recently decided to go fully IB. I'd have to look that up for you, but yeah, there have been some cases. An entire country went IB.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are some cases of that occurring.
So I don't know how closely you follow the education reform debate at the Iowa State House this past year.
Somewhat.
Okay. I mean, sometimes I look at some of the things and I know that politics is like making sausage. You put a little bit of this, you put a little bit of that. You got to get everybody to agree on things that they might not totally like, but if you're going to pass a bill, if you're going to get 51 votes in the House and 26 in the Senate, you've got to put together a package that works.
Sure.
It seems like, and again, maybe there are too many multicultural types out there in the Iowa House where this would never fly, but it seems like some of the stuff that's being offered in the IB program and some of the accomplishments that you can point to, some of the results would be right down the line of what much of the talk in the legislature is wanting to accomplish when it comes to trying to create higher standards, better results, more accountability.
I would agree with you.
So did that ever come up in the discussion this year on reform, as maybe doing more to help promote IB as an option?
No, not to my knowledge. I do not recall a time of it coming back or coming.
Well, they should have unleashed you as a lobbyist.
There you go. Yeah, but like I said, I really do hold it dear to me from an ethical standpoint to not pressure schools. I really want them to go through the stakeholder process.
That's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I would hate to have a lot of IB schools in name only and not in purpose. That would kind of defeat the whole thing. But
so again, look at how long this has taken. In 1948, after World War II,
yes,
a French woman, I believe,
French woman
conceived this idea.
Yes, she did.
20 years later, it actually took root. Actually got going.
Yes.
And then another 30 years later, after that, it opens the first school in Des Moines or in Iowa.
Yeah, a little even longer than that. Yeah.
And so you think about how long that much has taken.
Yeah, it has taken kind of a long time. Well, for a while, IB was really the domain of private schools. Now it's about half and half public, half private. And so I think that has definitely had something to do with it as well. And it's caught on now, so to speak, in the United States, whereas it was really more of a European, a little bit of Asian thing before.
A little bit of an Asian thing. I like that.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, when you compare, Europe and the number of IB schools they had with Asia, Europe was definitely leading with International Baccalaureate.
One more question. We've talked about on this segment of the program is the new beat on education.
Yeah.
We've talked about Montessori. We've talked about Waldorf.
Sure.
How do you interface with those programs?
Well, we don't really offer Waldorf in our district. However, we do offer a Montessori school. I would say that the International Baccalaureate approaches, I don't want to speak on behalf or speak in a way that would be offensive to the Montessorians. However,
is that really, if you're an advocate of Montessori, you're a Montessorian?
Well,
not a Montessoriite?
I'm making it up.
Okay.
But I would say that we're a little more traditional than that, but we would agree with the Montessori philosophy about student-driven learning, student curiosity, student investigation.
Great. Well, wonderful. And I don't know. I know there's talk about making Waldorf part of the Des Moines School District as well. Is that something you'd welcome?
I personally would welcome that, actually. I think it would just be one more choice for our parents to make. And there are aspects of Waldorf that I appreciate.
I'm going to ask you a question I know you can't answer. Big school board election coming up. Who are you voting for?
I cannot answer that.
I know that. Well, and I'm not going to answer it either. But we do have candidates who are, all the candidates in Des Moines have been invited to appear on this program next week.
Good.
So far, I've heard from Connie Bozen, but I just sent out the email this morning, so perhaps the others will get back to me soon. So.
The one thing I can say about the board is that our members have been very, very supportive of International Baccalaureate in our district, which is very appreciated.
The new superintendent?
Oh, absolutely supportive of everything that we do.
Great. All right.
He's been great.
Simone, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
you. Simone Aleko.
Simone Alekno.
Simone Alekno with the International Baccalaureate Program of the Des Moines Public School District. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me. Thanks a lot.
And folks, thanks for joining us for the Fallon Forum today. Again, I want to thank all the folks in Northeast Iowa and in the Ames area who took the time to listen to this program. It's on every Wednesday out of Ames on 89.1 FM. It's on KHOI at 5 p.m. up in Northeast Iowa on KPVL FM. 7 p.m. So again, tune into the show any day of the week live, Monday through Friday from 12 to 1 on the Fallon Forum website. That's fallonforum.com. And I want to thank Maddie Kane, my producer, and Webcast One Live for providing the studio. And I want to thank the Proclaimers. And I've also got to thank the Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit for a great event coming up on November 9th. November 9th is the Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit at Drake University. Check it out, folks. It's a great way to learn how to grow your small business. I also want to thank Hawk Restaurant in the East Village. I want to thank Fighting Burrito with locations in Ames on Welch Avenue and in Des Moines on 13th Street, just south of Locust Ave in the Nationwide building. Again, I'll be back tomorrow, folks, with more conversation on the Fallon Forum. And hey, 500 miles, I'd walk that far for all sorts of things. Actually, for not too many things. I walk 1,000 miles for maybe one, maybe two things. 3,000 miles? Yeah.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.